Hey, good morning, grace and peace. My name is Paul Dezay, and this is Find the Intersection. Today's a Thursday, which means on Thursdays we always do a psalm. We talk about a psalm. And today's psalm is Psalm 31, verses 9 to 16. Psalm 31, 9 to 16. And the context of this particular psalm is the Psalm of David, and it's a prayer for mercy. So the context is a psalm of David, and it's a prayer for mercy. Just stepping back a little bit and talking about the Psalms in general. The Psalms are the prayer book, the hymn book, the song book of the Jewish people and also the early church. And what's important about that is Jesus would have known these Psalms. He would have memorized these Psalms. He would have prayed the Psalms, and he would have sung the Psalms within the synagogue and within his family life. And so Jesus would have known Psalm 31, and he would have connected the dots to his experience as the Messiah, and understanding how his crucifixion would have been a fulfillment of many of these prayers and psalms. And also, as we talked about yesterday in Isaiah, there's definitely this theme of a suffering servant. All right, so let's jump in. There's three things that stood out to me in this passage. The first is the idea of distress. The psalmist is praying for mercy because he is under distress, and that distress is really twofold. I notice in he's saying, my body and soul are withering away. He's dying from grief, and the grief seems to be as a result of the scorn of enemies and neighbors. And the second is, he says, sin has drained my strength. So he's in distress because of his own personal sin, and it looks like the attacks from coming from the outside. And so he is under distress, and that is the reason for this prayer for mercy. In other words, David sees Jesus as the sovereign one who can provide mercy in his situation. And I think that's important for us to understand, especially as we look into Jesus and the prayers that he prayed from the cross. The Psalms that he shared from the cross speak to Jesus's faith in his Father. The second thing that jumped out to me is this emphasis upon trust. In verse 14, it says, "But I am trusting you, O Lord, saying, you are my God." And I love what verse 15 says, "My future is in your hands." In other words, that's really what trust is. It's trusting God with our future and also our present, whatever we're going through, whatever distress we're going through. Trust is saying, God, you've got this. I'm going to have to trust you through this, that you will guide me through it. And it's not saying that, God, you control every situation that happens, because, there are things that God doesn't desire, like cancer and death. So it's not saying, God, that you control cancer. It's a sense that I trust you, that you will guide me through this. You are the great healer, you'll heal my body, but I trust you in the midst of the distressed. And then the third thing that jumped out to me is the word rescue. And the word rescue was mentioned twice. Verse 15, "My future is in your hands. Rescue me from those who hunt me down relentlessly." And verse 16, "Let your favor shine on your servant. In your unfailing love, rescue me." And so Jesus believes, David believes, and then Jesus picks up this in the way that he lives his life, that God will rescue him. And because God is the God of love, he demonstrated the love on the cross. And I think it's important for us to understand that God does rescue us because of his love. And that love is transformative love. And so there you go. So again, we read this psalm because it's a psalm of David in its original context. But because we know about the crucifixion, we read backwards into this psalm to see that Jesus was suffering distress. And just like David, he was crying out for mercy. And Jesus shows us how to live and pray and in the midst of our own distress. So the application today is, do I trust God in the midst of my distress? Do I trust God in the midst of my health issues? Do I trust God when things aren't going well in my life, in my family, in my job? Do I trust God? And in that, I'm saying, God, my future is in your hands. My present is in your hands. So great psalm as always. I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments so we can learn from each other. And I believe that God will use you to teach me and vice versa. So let's collaborate in the study of Scripture. So that's it. So tomorrow's my favorite day of the week. Fridays we talk intersections. So we talk about the 4 passages that we read through the week, and then we talk about the themes, the threads. Kind of we back up, look at big picture, see how these passages come together within the story of God, which is awesome. Anyway, that's it for me today. I hope you have a fantastic Thursday, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Grace and peace.